Hi, everybody. Um, Here we are. It's what day is it? It's May 2nd. Here in Flushing, New York, part of the borough of Queens. It's almost 7 o'clock at night. Today's my day off, and I slept from 8:30 p.m. to 6:30, so I put in 10 hours. Guess I was more tired than I thought. Uh, it's been really busy, so I haven't had time to make many of these. I don't think anybody's really missed them because there's only been one or two people to view them, but um, I guess they're more for me. Anyway, uh, good news and bad news is there's seems to be fewer COVID cases where people are on the vent at the hospital. They're trying to clear out some floors and clean things up. Uh, the bad news is that seems to be happening because people are dying. I don't know if I can think of any patients that I've had where patient came off the ventilator and went home. It seems to take an extraordinarily long time. I mean, there are people I took care of on my first day who, 2 weeks ago, who are still alive and on the ventilator and improving and getting off of all their pressors, the medicine that keeps their blood pressure up. But they're not better, and they're not in a position to come off the vent yet. I tried to start weaning one patient off the ventilator last night just by lowering her sedation meds and turning down the oxygen. Everything was going well. I went to get something to eat, and I came back, and everybody was standing around her bed because we had to fix it because all of a sudden she just didn't tolerate it anymore. We got it all straightened out, and she was fine when I left, but she was still on the ventilator and still heavily sedated. Part of the thing is, if they're on Dilaudid or fentanyl for 2 weeks, it's hard to get them off that. It's just tough. They get physically dependent on it. So, um, one bright side this week was, and it's going to sound weird till you get to the end of the story, but I was taking care of two patients. Um, One guy was Chinese origin. The other guy only spoke Spanish, was Hispanic. The Chinese gentleman, he was in the process of dying. He had suffered massive infarcts throughout his brain, and there was nothing to do. And the Hispanic gentleman, he was doing pretty well. We just had him on a little bit of Levophed and minimal sedation, and he was breathing on his own. Um, but the story isn't about either one of them, really. It's about the patient that was in between them. This lady who, that day, so let's see, when I say that day, I mean Thursday, had to have both of her feet amputated because blood clots had cut off the flow to both of her feet. She'd gotten a clot in her aorta and it showered down to her feet, and she was in a lot of pain before they amputated her feet. If you're in anesthesia or pain medicine, you know that this is a recipe for phantom limb pain. And the whole time, like the whole first hour I was there, um, trying to get squared away with my patient, I heard her kind of moaning and fussing and moving in the bed, and I heard him order some Dilaudid um, and some blood pressure medicine to try and keep her blood pressure down. Of course, her blood pressure was up because she had pain. And I had a minute, and I went over to talk to her and assess her pain. The other CRNA next to me had been given an assignment further down the hall, so he was away. And his patient was much sicker than this unfortunate lady. She wasn't on the ventilator. She was just on some oxygen in her nose. She was in the ICU just because she'd had surgery that day and we needed to keep an eye on her. So I asked her what hurt, and she said the pressure on her feet was terrible. Well, she didn't have feet anymore. Um, so I ran a pain clinic for 5 years in Jasper and Barton and um, I think Cherokee County in Kansas, um, and spent a lot of time dedicated to learning about pain management and taking care of patients with severe chronic pain. And I knew if we didn't do anything about this right away, she could have phantom pain for a really, really long time. So I went to the surgical residents running the floor, who'd been ordering the Dilaudid, and told them I really want to put bilateral femoral nerve blocks in this patient and bilateral sciatic nerve blocks, so we block all the nerves going to her feet. Ordinarily an epidural would be a great job to achieve all of this for the long term. I had three concerns about that. One, Acinetobacter is running wild in the hospital now, and I did not want to give her Acinetobacter meningitis by giving her an epidural. The second concern is she's on heparin. Everybody's on heparin here because of the blood clotting and all the issues that come with that. A lot of times when patients take a dramatic downturn, it's because they got a pulmonary embolus on top of their coronavirus pneumonia. And then the third concern was there's so many travelers here. I mean, I've been on units where every single person has been from out of state. So I wasn't sure who was going to take care of the epidural. So we went with the blocks. And you're going to ask yourself, well, how come you did the blocks if she was on heparin? Well, I did them under ultrasound, so I could watch where the needle was going the whole time. Those nerves I'm talking about live close to some fairly large blood vessels. But we got the blocks done without any bleeding, and she hadn't slept in 3 nights, and she slept 10 straight hours after I put the blocks in because her pain went away. And she was super grateful, said thank you about 100 times, it seems like, which is not why I did it. I did it just to make her feel better. But it's one of the small victories I've had while I've been here. Otherwise, it's just small progressive steps, which are typical of ICU care. I mean, ICU is a million little steps to make people better. It's nothing heroic. It's nothing giant. It's nothing, but it's just constantly taking good care, doing all the little things so bad things like skin breakdown don't happen, and so healing happens slowly a little bit at a time. So, been trying to be good to myself by sleeping when I'm not at work, eating good, eating oranges, eating some fruit. They supply free breakfast here in the morning. For morale, I get some tasty food delivered for dinner most nights because I have a food allowance, and I could be cheap and eat peanut butter and get that, but I want to try and avoid getting really sick, and I want to try and keep my morale up a little bit. I walk the mile to work back and forth every day instead of taking the car. I usually try and walk with one of the other CRNAs, either my most common friends on my walks are John, Haldane, Jeanette, Trisha, or Misty. Usually at least one of those other people is working, and so we'll walk together and kind of try and support each other and talk and chat and try to eat meals together too. So I've got a week left. That week means 6 more shifts. I'm on 3, off 1, on another 3. On May 9th, I'm getting a coronavirus antibody test. Feel like I had coronavirus like a week ago. I had really bad body aches, really bad fatigue, headaches, and a sore throat. So we'll do the antibody test and see. We're not sure what that means because having antibodies doesn't necessarily mean you're immune. I guess some people are getting infected more than once, but we will see about that. And then I guess when I go home, I can't go to work for 2 weeks. I'm supposed to quarantine. Um, I feel like 3 or 4 days off to rest up would be about optimal. I'll probably get bored in about 2 weeks and start mowing the lawn with scissors or something. But I guess I can get some projects done. But so that's how things are going to go. I'm hoping that I don't have to work nights on the 9th and fly home on the 10th. I'm hoping I can sleep and then fly home on the 11th. You know, as much as I'd like to get home, uh, I don't want to slog it halfway across the country having worked all night and then get home and just go right to bed. I want to go home and talk to my wife and hang out and play with the dogs, pet the cats, give mints to the horse, and take care of my bees. You know, all those things. So, um, yeah, it's hard work. We're kind of bonding together, but a lot of sad things. People, you do not want this in your town. I know everybody wants to go back to work. Everybody feels like they're short of money and they're not going to be able to feed the family and all that. But I mean, people are being pretty good about helping people out with their bills and giving them space and time. We're not going to throw everybody in the country out of their house because of a virus. I mean, something's going to have to be done and it'll get taken care of. So try not to worry about it. Try to do the right thing. Um, Wear a mask, wash your hands. Gloves don't really do anything. Just wash your hands. Don't wear gloves. Don't leave gloves all over the place. Don't wear gloves, touch everything, and then touch everything else. Use social distancing. Only touch the things you need to touch. Wear your mask. Yes, you can breathe with your mask on. I've breathed with a mask on 8 hours a day for 20 years in the operating room, and here in Queens, I'm wearing an N95 mask and a surgical mask on top of that, a bunny suit on top of that, a hairnet, and a face shield. So you can breathe with your mask on if I'm wearing that for 12 hours. It's going to be okay. You can breathe. So I guess I'm going to check out here and eat some food and watch some TV on my day off and get ready to slog it out this week. So everybody stay safe.